Hey guys, Mary here with GameSpot presenting the Mix at GDC 2016. I'm here with Thijmen, and you'll be showing me Metrico Plus. Now, people might remember Metrico.
I hope they do.
Yeah, you should all remember Metrico. But what's different with Plus?
So Metrico came out over 1.5 years ago, and it was for the PlayStation Vita. And that did fairly well, as in people either really liked it or they really didn't like it.
That's the best space to be between.
There was no space in between.
That was it. It was one or the other.
No. Yeah, and so now we're trying to make it to like for more platforms, for all the platforms that you might have, basically, and make sure that more people get a chance to play Metrico. And what's different is that, okay, so we made it for the PlayStation Vita, which has these neat hardware features such as the gyroscope and the camera, which we used, but we can't do that.
Can't use that for
no, we can't. For
these other platforms.
So we like half the game is out, and we made a whole new mechanics, a set of mechanics and puzzles and worlds, etc. And then we totally upgraded like the visuals because I mean, your Vita screen isn't your average TV screen,
so let's take a look at these upgraded visuals right now. This is Metrico Plus, the demo, which is running on PC.
Do you want to play a boy or a girl?
I want to play as a boy. I like to be someone new when I play games. I'm a girl all the time.
As you progress, you actually turn into something else.
Okay.
But that's sort of the story.
That's interesting. There's some spoilers down the road.
But you won't see too much of that. I mean, that's further into the game. So.
And yeah, this is actually the very beginning of the game. So anyone who played it on Vita, they'll probably remember these parts of it?
Yeah, most of them, yeah. But they just worked so well, and there was no reason to do them differently. And if we wanted to do them differently, they would have turned out worse.
Right.
So, and that allowed us to focus on the new parts of the game as well, so they could be better.
I don't understand, like, yeah, how do you get rid of like the motor scoping of like the Vita? How do you replace something like that?
Well, we invented totally new mechanics. It's just a totally new part of the game. So it's very hard to put into words because. Well, there's nothing quite like a game that's sort of being remade for a platform which was relying heavily on that platform.
That's exactly right. And the Vita is such a special device because it has those things that you literally designed the game for. So this is a completely, I mean, it's almost, in many ways, it will be a new experience because you're having to redo a lot of these mechanics. But the basis of the game is still the same, which is, in a way, it's a puzzler where you are traversing the environment. And right now, people who are not familiar with Metrico can see you're basically spanning distances to raise this platform in order to progress. And moving left raises the platform, whereas moving right doesn't, so you have to find a way to keep moving left without...
Exactly right, yeah.
So jumping seems to work on this one.
Yeah, so the first world is all about just moving and jumping, and it may seem sort of like you cannot do a whole lot with that, but it's actually kind of refreshing when we started making the game how much you could do with that.
Right. Oh, it's a very clean system, and that's also kind of backed up by your visual design, which is very, very clean, very, I don't want to say simple, but it's, you don't put too much bells and whistles on it here. Like, you're looking at simple shapes, clean colors, and shades. There's just not a lot, you guys kept it really seamless.
So the most complex parts of it are like the image effects, things that really set that mood within this very, very minimalistic world. I mean, these small and simple sort of shapes, they may give the wrong impression sometimes. So, I mean, these are all infographics, and infographics are things that we know from Excel sheets or like business presentations. And they tend not to be the most sexy things to look at. So we do as much work as we can on making them more interesting to look at. And that's where sort of the fog in the back comes in, and the reflections you can see on the right here.
Yeah, and it almost becomes a little meditative, right? Because you're kind of you're just experiencing this world. It doesn't seem very punishing, like it seems very clean. And in fact, you're actually, for this puzzle, it's kind of encouraging you to consider kind of falling off the edge
Yeah,
and dying.
in the previous puzzle here, we're not talking about solutions too much because, you know, it's a puzzle game. So if I'm gonna show you and tell you about all the solutions, there's nothing gonna be for you as a viewer to explore once you get your hands on this game. So I'm just gonna casually stroll through. But dying is indeed one of the, it's just another variable. Like this bridge over here, it just came out of nowhere because
You fell.
You fell.
And you're kind of encouraging the player through this to try, through trial and error.
Yeah.
And what's good about this game is that you're letting the player experiment without feeling punished by that, which is a really nice thing to do. So everyone should kind of feel free to, well, there's really no mistakes. Much like a Bob Ross painting, this game is a happy accident, and you basically just mess around and see what works and what doesn't on your own time.
There are no trees in here, though.
There's no happy trees. It's like simple happy polygons. Well, this is really nice.
So another thing that we did for Metrico Plus was there was a story in there, there was a premise in the game, and people didn't really get that because it was weaved through the gameplay, but people don't tend to look at gameplay as something that could also tell a story, not when it's sort of something they're
But that's what makes games as the medium important, is that you're telling a story through the gameplay.
Yeah, so we've thought about this a lot, and we're coming up to a piece of the game that gives you a little bit more incentive to think about what the game should be about, without using text. I mean, you've not seen any text except for some percentages. We're trying to tell everything, like both tutorial-wise and like story-wise, and what you should do. Nothing should be set through text. Everything should be done through animations and slowly building up your experience and knowledge of this world. So this is new for people who played the Vita version, because we wanted to make sure people thought about the premise and considered like the implications of what they're doing. As some people seem to be taking this robot on a rampant spree for hardware destruction.
Well, that's very interesting. So you're giving us way more incentive to think and be thoughtful about the story behind this game.
Yeah, and about what you're doing. Because like every step you're taking is changing the world, and then there's sort of
the consequences of perhaps affecting the world.
It goes in two ways. Like the world is making you do these things.
Right.
That's something we're playing with.
So the give and take of you and your impact on the world and the world's impact on you.
Yeah. It's actually more about the second thing, but the first thing is more apparent.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really obvious, right, that we're constantly affecting the world, so the second one would be the thing that maybe you come to terms with.
So this is a new world I just entered.
Right.
There's 6 in total. And every world introduces a new mechanic. There's a new color scheme, new shape pattern that's emerging. Music is different for every world, which is made by Palmbome, a Dutch DJ who's living in LA these days.
Yeah, and it's also, like, this is another thing that really adds to the atmosphere of your game, which is, it's got enough of a beat where you feel progression and movement. There's like a nice tempo to it, but it's also, again, very clean, very streamlined. There's not a lot of bells and whistles to it, and it kind of just really adds to the atmosphere of your game.
Like on the surface, but behind this there's actually like a system in which you have about 40 pioneers which DJs use to mix from one song to another. And there are all these lines, all these layers of music, and we're constantly able to sort of mix them in between. And so it looks very simple on the front.
Well, it's meant to be seamless for the player, but maybe not in terms of how much effort you guys put into it.
No, but usually when I'm not trying to say that it's a compliment to myself, but when you do something right, you don't notice it.
Yeah.
So, and that's why you're saying the music is simple. It works really well.
Yeah, I think that's what God says when he meets Bender, is when you do things right,
Yeah.
people won't know you've done anything at all.
It's a perfect quote right there. So it's not all puzzles. Some because if you just
Some
have to-
platforming and
yeah, if we make you think like the entire time, and believe me, there are plenty of times where you need to think a lot, then it just becomes sort of this drag of puzzles. So that's also something that we're improving over with Metrico Plus, is that we realized that there was more need for these moments of rest, and in which you can explore the world a little bit more, or sort of get more in touch with your character. There's really a lot that we learned over the course of making Metrico and doing this.
right.
So it's all improved.
It's an absolutely stunning game, and it's if it's something that a lot of people don't have a Vita, and if you've never tried this game before, this is something that you might absolutely want to check out and consider getting. So, Thijmen, thank you so much for showing us Metrico Plus.
Thank you for having me.
And when is this officially out?
We don't have a date yet, but it should be in the second quarter of this year. We're very close.
So you feel pretty confident about that second quarter?
Yeah.
All right. Sweet. Well, thank you very much for showing us Metrico. That was Metrico Plus. You guys can expect to see that really soon. Do you have a price on it yet?
No, that's.
It's up in the air.
Yeah, it's up in the air.
It's up in the air.
It's so hard to be, you know.
Of course, and
to not let people down, but still make your game worth.
well, it's a different game in a sense because you're adding a lot of. You're adding different mechanics to it. So it is, in many ways, it'll be a new experience for people.
It's definitely to most people it will be.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for showing that off.